The morning rush had finally died down. The cafe, once buzzing with laughter, footsteps, and clinking cups, now sat in quiet stillness. Only the low hum of the espresso machine and the soft jazz playing from the speakers filled the air. Sunlight filtered through the large glass windows, catching flecks of dust that danced lazily in the golden glow. At the far corner table, Alexander Reed sat alone, his posture straight but his spirit heavy. The aroma of freshly ground coffee lingered around him, yet his own cup sat untouched, steam long gone cold. He was dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, polished shoes, and an elegant wristwatch that screamed wealth and power. To anyone passing by, he looked like a man who had it all. But up close, his tired eyes told another story. He stared at the swirling coffee, his reflection distorted in the dark liquid. He wasn't really seeing it, though. His mind was lost in memories, his father's voice echoing in the back of his mind, words from their last conversation haunting him like a ghost. His father had built Reed Enterprises from nothing, working day and night, teaching Alexander every lesson about success, except how to live when the success felt meaningless. Alexander's phone lay on the table, screen lighting up again and again with incoming messages. Board meeting rescheduled to 2 p.m. Sir, investors need your approval. We can't proceed without your signature. He didn't respond. For once, he didn't care. The title of CEO felt like a burden instead of an honor. Outside the window, people walked by, laughing couples, busy workers, parents with strollers. They all seemed to belong somewhere, to someone. But Alexander couldn't remember the last time he'd felt that. Since his father's death 2 months ago, the mansion he lived in felt colder than ever. He had no wife, no children, no one waiting for him at home. He sighed deeply and loosened his tie, feeling the weight of silence pressing down on him. Even surrounded by luxury, he felt poorer than ever, in love, in warmth, in peace. The world knew him as Alexander Reed, the brilliant CEO. But sitting in that quiet cafe corner, he was just Alex, a lonely son missing his father. And no business empire could fill that empty chair across from him. The bell above the cafe door jingled softly, breaking the silence. A small burst of cool morning air swept in, carrying the scent of rain from outside. Alexander didn't look up. He was too lost in thought, but the barista smiled at the newcomers. A young woman stepped inside, holding the hand of a little girl who couldn't have been more than 6. The woman's clothes were simple, faded jeans and a plain cardigan, but her eyes carried the quiet strength of someone who worked hard for every single day. The little girl, with a messy ponytail and a pink backpack almost bigger than her, skipped toward the counter, her old teddy bear dangling from one arm. "Mommy, can I get the chocolate muffin?" she asked eagerly. Her mother smiled softly, checking her worn purse before nodding. "Just one, sweetheart. We'll share." As they waited, the little girl's eyes wandered around the cafe. That's when she noticed him, Alexander Reed, sitting alone in the corner, staring at nothing, his shoulders slightly hunched, his suit too perfect for such an ordinary morning. He looked out of place, like a portrait hung in the wrong gallery. But more than that, he looked sad. The girl frowned, tilting her head. Even from across the room, she could see the sadness in his eyes. She tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mommy," she whispered, "that man looks lonely." Her mother glanced over briefly, offering a polite smile before turning back to her coffee. "Sweetheart, it's not nice to stare," she said gently. But the little girl wasn't convinced. She kept watching him, her small heart aching in the innocent way only children understood. "Maybe he needs a friend," she murmured, clutching her teddy bear. Before her mother could say another word, the little girl slipped from her grasp and walked across the cafe. Her sneakers squeaked slightly on the floor, and when she stopped beside Alexander's table, he finally looked up, startled. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly, her voice pure and earnest. Alexander blinked, unsure what to make of the tiny visitor standing beside him. "Yes?" he asked quietly. The little girl tilted her head, her big brown eyes filled with concern. "Are you okay, sir?" Her question hung in the air, simple, innocent, and more powerful than anything he'd heard in a very long time. For a moment, Alexander just stared at the little girl, unsure how to respond. The simplicity of her question caught him completely off guard. "Are you okay?" He couldn't even remember the last time someone had asked him that without expecting something in return. Not an employee, not a shareholder, not a journalist, just a child with kind eyes and a teddy bear missing one button. He tried to smile, but it faltered halfway. I'm okay, sweetheart, he said softly, his voice rough from disuse. Why do you ask? The little girl frowned, shaking her head. You don't look okay, she said, her tone matter of fact, like she was simply stating the weather. When my daddy's sad, he looks like you. Her words hit him like a quiet punch to the chest. He didn't know what to say. His throat tightened, and he quickly looked away, pretending to adjust his coffee cup. I guess I'm just tired, he murmured. The girl nodded knowingly, as if she understood far more than her age should allow. My mommy says when you're tired in your heart, not just your eyes, you need something sweet, she said thoughtfully. She reached into the pocket of her small pink jacket and pulled out a slightly crumpled candy wrapper. She smoothed it carefully before placing the candy on the table in front of him. Here, she said proudly. It's my favorite one. Candy makes me feel better when I'm sad. Alexander stared at the tiny offering as if it were a priceless treasure. No one had given him something so simple, so pure, in years. His heart twisted painfully, warmth flooding through the cracks he thought were long sealed. Just then, the girl's mother hurried over, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, sir, she said, reaching for her daughter's hand. Alexander raised a hand gently, shaking his head. It's okay, he said, smiling softly. She's very kind. The woman smiled apologetically, but the little girl stood firm. You should eat it, sir, she said seriously. It'll help. For the first time in weeks, a faint laugh escaped Alexander's lips. Maybe you're right, he whispered. And as he unwrapped the candy, something inside him, something heavy and cold, began to melt just a little. Alexander held the small piece of candy between his fingers for a long time, staring at it as though it carried some hidden meaning. It was just a cheap strawberry sweet, nothing fancy, nothing expensive. Yet, somehow, it felt more valuable than anything he had bought in years. Slowly, he unwrapped it, the soft crinkle of the wrapper breaking the silence. He placed it in his mouth. The sugary taste spread across his tongue, sweet and simple, but it filled him with a warmth that coffee or whiskey never could. See, the little girl said, smiling proudly as if she had just fixed the whole world. Better. Alexander looked at her, really looked at her this time, the innocence in her eyes, the genuine concern on her face, and he couldn't help but smile. It wasn't the polite, practiced smile he gave to investors or employees. It was real. Much better, he said softly. Thank you. The girl beamed, hugging her teddy bear tighter. Her mother, still standing nearby, gave Alexander an apologetic look mixed with curiosity. She could tell this man wasn't ordinary. His watch alone could probably pay their rent for months, but right now, he looked nothing like a CEO. He looked human. Come on, sweetie, her mother said gently. We should let the nice man finish his coffee. The little girl nodded but turned back one last time. Bye, sir. Don't be sad anymore, okay? She said cheerfully, waving her tiny hand. Alexander chuckled, his chest tightening in a way that wasn't painful anymore, just full. I'll try, he replied. He watched as they walked out of the cafe, hand in hand. The bell above the door jingled again, and then they were gone, swallowed by the morning crowd outside. But the moment stayed with him. For a long while, he just sat there, feeling something shift inside him. The loneliness hadn't vanished, but it didn't feel so suffocating now. He glanced at the empty chair across from him, the one that had haunted him for months, and smiled faintly. His phone buzzed again, another reminder of the world waiting for him. This time, he picked it up. But before returning to business, he whispered to himself, "Thank you, little one." And as he left a generous tip on the table, Alexander Reed walked out of the cafe feeling lighter than he had in years, a lonely CEO reminded that even the smallest kindness could heal the heaviest heart.